This is the third webinar of the Northern California Recycling Association Get Ready to Recycle and Compost at School series. And wanted to welcome everyone. We have a packed agenda, so we're going to get started right away. Here are some housekeeping items. We are recording, so please turn off your video if you do not want to be recorded. Mute your audio and put your questions for the speakers in the chat. We'll get to as many questions as possible today, and we will also have resources, including the video recording, presentation slides, and other resources at our website, which is ncrarecycles.org, Zero Waste Schools. So with that, I will turn it over to Jill Buck, who will introduce our Pleasanton Unified speakers.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. My name is Jill Buck, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Go Green Initiative. It's been my pleasure for many years to work with the Pleasanton Unified School District, and what they'll be discussing today is how a district at the centralized level can help institute recycling and composting at school sites. They've taken a very unique approach. It started with a school board policy, an integrated waste management policy. They've developed a district green team and school site level green teams. And between the two functions of the district green team and the school site green teams, there's a lot of great work going on. And so it's my pleasure to bring on Ahmad. He is the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for Pleasanton Unified. And I just want to mention to each of the speakers from PUSD, when you're ready for your next slide, if you'll just say next slide, we will make sure those get advanced. So Ahmad, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you are not only the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for Pleasanton Unified, you're also the chairperson of the district's green team. And so I'd love to have you talk to us a little bit about how in those capacities you help to support the facilities staff as they work with the custodians to implement recycling and composting.
Great. And good morning to everyone. We're almost close to afternoon, and I'd really like to share some of our experiences. And so I think for that district office level is truly having leadership being present, obviously being committed to the green efforts, understanding the issues at hand, the science behind it, and then being a champion for that cause. And I think that we look at all of the issues from energy use and waste and all of the various environmental challenges that we have upon us. It's very important for that core team that is the champion to obviously understand and believe, and then to help support the team, clear hurdles, resolve issues so that the work can be done. And so that to me is the most critical role for our level, is to be present, to support the team, to clear the hurdles, and then really understand the laws and regulations, because in addition to understanding the science and the issues around our environment, it's important to understand the laws and regulations and those policies. No matter where you are or what your background, that's what we have to do. And so there is an actual business and fiscal side to it in order to make those things happen. And it's very important for us to listen to our various constituents. And so that I think has been the most important role that I've played, Jill.
Well, and Ruth, I'll have you go to the next slide, please, so we can take a look at some of the points that he's got. But, I know that, Ahmad, you've had to give some direction to your facilities team, and you've kind of paved the way for some of the training to go on. Are there any pieces of advice or any best practices in what you've done and the way you've worked with your facility staff that you might extend to other school districts? Any words of wisdom? And Ruth, maybe one more slide, please.
Yeah, I mean, again, fundamentally, it's really important for us in that leadership role to understand the fundamentals behind it. So that could be the laws and the regulations, so that we can articulate beyond the science and the environmental reasons, that we can clearly articulate that this is beyond just what we want to do, but these are some of the requirements. So that becomes critical in creating opportunities to make sure that you're communicating to all your key stakeholders. And that's both the site administration at the district office level, at the facility level, so that everyone understands this is something that is important to the school district, both from the board, from the superintendent on down, that we need to, this is the way we need to do our work. This is the way we need to align our business. The old way of doing things is no longer the way we can continue. And then the clearing the hurdles is finding out where are we going to get stuck? Is it just funding, or is it some policies? Is it the way we talk about the issues, and finding that and trying to find ways to clear the path, because the work is going to be done by the team, right? Once you develop the team, they're really good at doing the detail work and putting procedures in place. But a lot of times at our level, we got to find out, is there something in that process that's going to get the team stuck? The other thing that we've learned is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of good work that's being done out there. And what I love about the school community and pretty much most of the public realm is you can take and you can, no one is worried about if you take their PowerPoint or their ideas and try to implement it at your school or your district. So I've learned a lot from San Mateo County that's done a lot of great work. Jill, you've done it. And so we just take and put it together, and we kind of like bring those best practices, so we're not spending so much time having to do everything from scratch. In addition, involving the site administrators and then the students and the custodians are critical, because the students get it. They're like, they're kind of like, they're the ones who are pushing us the furthest in some of the work that we're doing. So bringing their enthusiasm is critical. And then having our custodial team that, has to do the work. And we're going to get into some of the details of that, but that involvement. And I think that, we had the district team, but I think the site green teams, they were really coming up with the innovative ideas and actually doing quite a bit of the work in terms of, setting up the trash bins, putting the signs up, and then advocating in their school. And so once it becomes a culture, the rest of it kind of falls in place. And finally, is sometimes, especially in larger districts, it becomes almost a very large task. And what I would say is start small, start in pilot programs, gain that experience, and then expand out so that, you can scale up appropriately, both in planning and funding and resources. So, those have been, my experiences, and I think we're headed in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do. There's always more challenges around the corner, but I really feel good about where we're headed.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. Next slide, please, Ruth. Now I'm happy to introduce Mike, who is with our HR department in Pleasanton Unified. Mike, we're so glad to have you today. You're on the district green team as well. Next slide, please, Ruth. And Mike, I'd love to have you talk about how the district HR department works with the district green team and the custodial labor unions to avoid any collective bargaining issues when the district implements recycling and composting. Talk to us about how you've done that.
Yes, good morning. And Jill, thank you for having me here. I think for the most part, and I know Ahmad alluded to as well, it all starts with communication. I think everything in life revolves around good, strong communication. So first of all, from a human resources perspective, you need to know what's in the collective bargaining agreement and what's in the specific classification job descriptions on what they can and cannot do, or what language can be utilized to ensure that this process is followed. But it starts with the communication process. I think one of the things that was effective, at least within Pleasanton, was doing our trash audit. and really looking and seeing and having as many stakeholders as possible, whether it's management, classified, certificate, go through that process and see what the issues, so they know why we are going down this journey. And once you get a group of individuals to see what the challenges are, what the issues are, it helps lead you into kind of why we need to look into the change. And then when you get to what the need is, you can talk about your vision for the district and where you want to go. And then you get into the negotiation process if we need folks to do things that maybe are outside of their job description, whether that leads to an MOU or if we ultimately believe that it is within their requirements of the position that would be carrying out the services. But essentially, it's really about the strong, high quality communication and showing all the impacted stakeholders the why of going down this journey.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. Ruth, next slide. Mike, you've been on the district green team since day one. Having HR involved has been so important. What advice do you have for other school districts who may be starting this particular piece of the journey? So
the reiteration of the communication component is essential. But one of the things I would highly recommend, as we've done, and you can always improve on it, but try to get the union involved in the beginning stages. Invite for example, the union presidents to be part of your district level green team so that they can be part of the larger conversations and maybe work through some of those hurdles before they become hurdles. And have that conversation. They can share their perspective or their concerns at the time, and those issues can be resolved early on in the developmental process so that they aren't issues as you're rolling it out to the site-based green teams. I think that is something that would be really helpful as you go down your journey and rolling out a district-wide green initiative.
Yeah, that was your advice to us as the district green team, and we took it, and I'm so glad we did, to involve the heads of the unions, both for classified staff and the teachers unions, also on the district green team. So that's very valuable. Next slide, please, Ruth. Now I'm happy to bring on Juan, and he is going to talk to us about the district green team's direct interface with the custodians. Next slide, please, Ruth. Juan, I know that a lot of people will talk about custodial training, but I think that PUSD has really taken it to a great level. You do the training for both day and night custodians. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we decided to take a different approach in regards to the training, and the ability to have both groups in at the same time was challenging, and in most cases. So we looked out for, how can we reach everyone together through other sources. So we started setting up Google Meets and Zoom meetings that have been ongoing as presentations have been presented to both shifts. We've also done visitations at the school sites and actually made observations on their buildings and base placements for monitors to set up bin stations and that sort of stuff. So that has helped us out tremendously in regards to making sure that everybody's on the same page and they're not hearing information from another custodian that might have interpreted differently, and having them all in there at the same time and being able to answer the questions and the concerns they have has helped us in terms of them understanding our visions, our goals, and what we intend to do moving forward and continuously. With that, and just making sure that we have, again, a very clear vision on what this is about, why we're doing it, and continuing to work with site staff individually on a smaller scale has helped too. There's going to be some folks who may have concerns that may not want to speak about it in a larger group setting. But as you are holding this smaller group meetings at the sites, they will you'll be able to learn a lot more from them and get good feedback in terms of what are the best practices for their site that may work at other sites as well, and share that information with other custodians too, to develop those skills at other locations too.
I love that. Thank you, Juan. And Ruth, next slide, please. You know, one of the tricky things, because campuses are all different, sites are all different, is making sure you have the right equipment so that custodians, as they're emptying various containers, can keep the trash, the recycling, and the composting separate. So Juan, talk to us about some of your choices there.
Yeah, so we decided, we were looking at different options on our bins and our stations. So we were considering Slim Jim options, which the capacity is a lot smaller. So we ended up going with open top distension trash bins that are color coded and also have labels that are clearly visible for our trash, recycling, and greens. Again, these posted signs on them, not just on the bins itself, but just throughout the campus where they're visible, has helped tremendously. Where we have pictures, particularly to items that may be coming from our child nutrition services as well. And tandem dollies were purchased to accommodate custodians and not having to go back into the same area. It allows them to put two open top bins together and push them around the buildings as they're moving along their cleaning schedules without having to return back twice. And they're able to separate their two different waste streams, whether it could be garbage and recycle at the same time. So that speeds up the process for them too. The tilt trucks that we purchased offer a bigger capacity in terms of how much garbage you can collect, or whether it's organics or recycle at one time without having to make too many trips to your larger dumpster areas too. Cleaning of the carts was another option we went with as well. That this offers two compartments that allows you to carry your cleaning agents as well as be able to separate trash and recycle as you're moving through classrooms and, you know, just general space area around the campuses too. That has helped us too in terms of, you know, not having to go back there again and now do a separate pickup of that different waste.
And Ruth, if you'll show the next slide, please, we'll see some pictures there. Juan, you want to cover what we're seeing on that slide, please?
Sure. Over to the left, you have your three bin station, as I mentioned in the previous slide. They're open top, they're color coded, blue, green, and your gray for garbage there. Now they all have liners. Starting with the recycle, it does have a liner in there. Now we have trained our staff and made them aware that, you know, the liners are only utilized for the purpose of collection. And once they are disposed into our dumpsters, they understand that's a product that needs to be loosened or otherwise considered contaminated. For our green containers, which are organics, we decided to go with a compost liner. This allows our staff to utilize a liner that would be appropriate, and they could all be disposed into the organics bin. This avoids the maintenance part of it on the bin itself, where they're not having to come back and clean the bin and worry about the pest issues that would come along after that. And that has helped us quite a bit as well. Over in the center photo, that's where we have the tilt truck over to the left side, as I mentioned, and then our 2-car compartment that allows you to not just pick up different garbage or recycle, but also carry all your cleaning agents at one time. And over to the right side, that's where we have our tandem dollies with our recycle bin and our garbage bin.
Excellent. Next slide, please, Ruth. These are the signs.
Yes, so these are some of the signs that we have utilized and posted throughout our campuses and the public areas such as classrooms. So as again, they're clearly labeled and there's pictures to illustrate what goes in which location.
And I know that those were made specifically, you work directly with Pleasanton Garbage Service and Child Nutrition Services to make sure these are accurate, right?
That is correct.
Okay, next slide, please, Ruth. All right, finally, Juan, what advice do you have for other school districts?
So definitely get the feedback from your experienced senior custodians, as they typically have. They've done different processes and they stuck to the process that has been more effective for them. So getting the feedback from them and then
items,
making sure that you look at all the options available on the table at all times and then implement the best practices for the rest of the campuses that would be more effective, not just for short term, but long term. And then eliminating the hurdles that they have. One of the hurdles that we've been hearing, that we have heard in the past was, how do we make up time? So looking at equipment that's going to facilitate that process for them, and not just directly when you're picking up your trash or recycle, but also in other areas that saves them minutes that they could allocate for these purposes here of recycling. And of course, you want to make sure you continue to monitor for the success of the program and always celebrate the success with them. And that would keep, everyone encouraged, and it'll become a normal practice over the long term.
Thank you so much. We are going to do a Q&A at the end. We do have some other presenters, but I want to thank Pleasanton Unified for being here. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. Ruth, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, and I'll unmute myself. We're going to have Angelina from StopWaste come on next, and I'm going to make her a co-host so she can share the San Lorenzo district story and invite you all to share her stories. So Angelina, you want to take it away?
Hello, everybody. My name is Angelina Vergara, and I'm the StopWaste Schools Program Manager. And I believe that the story that I will be sharing dovetails nicely with the Pleasanton Unified School District story. We're a public agency, and our mission is to reduce waste by supporting students, schools, school districts to take action using the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot at home, at school, and in their community. And the story that I'll be sharing is a district rollout from beginning to end with the San Lorenzo Unified School District. San Lorenzo Unified School District is what we would consider a mid-sized school district: 9 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 4 high schools, and 2 adult schools. For us, the story begins with a teacher champion, Claudia McDonough, 5th grade teacher who rallied her 5th graders and also other schools when the district was going to start purchasing recyclable styrofoam. Knowing that recyclable styrofoam was not the most sustainable choice, and the district already had compostable trays, they challenged the school board to consider not going with that trajectory, and they were successful. And because of that initiative, the team that she pulled together really started our recycling committee for the school district. That would begin the 3-stream rollout and food recovery initiatives for the entire district. It included the hauler, waste management, and with the school district solid waste franchise agreement, or Loma Sanitary School District, who provide solid waste services and program support to schools in their service area, as well as consultants by the Altamont Landfill Educational Advisory Board, including Jen Abbey, who will be sharing some of the story as well after me. So I have to mention that through the years, recycling efforts were happening school by school, and definitely there was a history of some successes, but also a lot of history of frustrating failures. And learning from this, this time around, there was a coordinated and concerted effort for custodians to be supported. It started with the superintendent signing on and then delegating the leadership of their operations and facilities manager, Diana Rante, who is the supervisor of the custodians. And she really made sure that everybody who needed to be at the table would be at the table. So the custodians were then engaged in an initial overview of what their responsibilities could be. And what was super effective is that we, working with the county, we asked one of our custodial champions from Oakland Unified School District, Mr. Vickers, to share his story of how he rolled out recycling and food recovery efforts at his school. And I think that was the most powerful thing, is custodians sharing stories to other custodians. He shared the challenges for sure, but he most importantly shared the upsides, seeing students grow in their leadership and ownership of recycling in the cafeteria and throughout the school in the classrooms. And this was a surprise to him, seeing his relationship, which was already good with staff, but it even improved more because of this school-wide effort, which we hear a lot about, is that sometimes this effort in the cafeteria and classrooms or outdoor eating, for example, may be the first time the school really has come together with every level of engagement, from students to staff to the parent community. He also claimed that because the waste actually decreased because there was, he believed it was more mindfulness, but also the pouring out of liquids specifically and food waste going down, that made the bags that were very heavy to lift into the right receptacles actually less heavy. And he claims after years and years of back pain, his back pain actually diminished because of the recycling efforts. And then there was this opportunity for the custodians at the district, who did have a mix of positive and negative experiences recycling at their school sites, share their concerns. And then you had this fellow custodian, Mr. Vickers, answering sincerely, honestly, and confidently that they could work through it if they work together. And then the recycling committee meetings, that this basically launched the monthly recycling committee meetings. And it became, that recycling committee was composed of union reps. So there was custodial reps, teacher reps, nutrition services reps, school leaders, teachers, also community and public representatives like ourselves, and custodians. There were custodians who were able to have hours paid to join these meetings and share their concerns and challenges and be part of the process. And after a site assessment at every school, it was very strategic, where we assessed that the schools where trays were stacked, the paper trays were stacked in the cafeteria. That really demonstrated students and school culture were ready to increase their compost and recycling. So we started there. We started with those cafeterias that were stacking their trays to reduce the volume in the compost. And then we rolled out 5 schools. And when we roll out, there was always, it always started and never didn't start with a logistical meeting with all the champions. So all the champions would be the vice principal or principal, always the custodian or custodians, and if possible, both, community partners, teacher champions, students, if it was appropriate. And then there was a plan. We would go over the needs of the custodian. We would go over systems. We would do observations of the cafeteria and how students moved around the cafeteria, how they interacted with the current systems of sorting their waste and food recovery. And then we would make a big deal out of it. We'd have a huge, we'd have the students do a waste audit, where traditionally, definitely 25, you would see, you know, the success of maybe like 80% on average was not being recovered, recyclables and the recyclable and compostables. They would create either an assembly with us. We'd bring out our wiggly worm. We'd decorate all of the bins and make it this cultural celebration. Like, look, we're doing something together. And then more importantly, or equally importantly, every day we would check in with the custodians, see what were the issues, problem solve together. And it would definitely work best when that vice principal or custodial manager was there to help support them. And then after 2 weeks, you would see on average going from this low number of diversion to up to 90, if not 100% diversion in 2 weeks. It was pretty incredible. Of course, there's a lot of work to maintain that number, but the beauty of it is that the students could see that they could make a difference, and the custodians have more faith that the system can work and support them. After the rollouts, the recycling committee would address custodial issues, and just like Pleasanton shared, there is an annual barbecue appreciation, there's summer trainings, there's continual onboarding for nighttime custodians and subs. And if I had to just say one word about the success of rolling out an entire district, it would be that the word would be listen. Listen to the custodians, see what they need, work with them, appreciate them. And also the slide that we pulled up of the web, and apologies for the grammar issue there. It really is this web of that we are a school ecosystem, and that everybody plays a role in the success of how waste sorting and proper disposal and food recovery happens. So you really need to find your part. And I'm going to put in the chat, we're trying to crowdsource stories of how districts are doing this best practice, of how parents are engaged, how students are engaged. So I'll put in the link or the chat, a link that you are welcome to join and add your best practices. And then I'm going to pass off to Jen Abbey, who's going to continue our story of San Lorenzo.
Great. Hi, I'm Jen Abbey, and my title is Green Program Facilitator, which means that I go and I help schools to implement composting and recycling programs. And I also used to be a classroom teacher as well. So I'm coming at this from a teacher perspective. Colonial Acres was our first rollout in San Lorenzo, and it was very exciting because like Angelina said, Dr. Brill was the superintendent at the time, and he was very excited to do this. And when the instruction comes from top down, then people really listen, and they formed the recycling committee. It was great. So Colonial Acres was interesting. We went and did site visits, and the cafeteria was crazy. It was really, the noise level and the anxiety level was pretty high. And so we knew that not only do we have to change the school culture, as people have talked about, to waste prevention and waste sorting, but we also had to change the cafeteria culture. And so support the custodian as much as we possibly could, because you could tell Mr. Tracy was pretty stressed out. And probably dubious about this coming, about rolling this out, and is this going to be even more chaotic for me, right? So our job was to make it easier on him. So what we did was we had a meeting with all the stakeholders, and then we said, okay, so can we get in on 10 minutes at a staff meeting? So then we did a 10-minute staff meeting presentation, told the teachers, okay, here's what's coming. It's going to be great. And can we sign you up for individual classroom lessons that we are going to teach? Come in and push in and teach in your classroom, 20-minute, half an hour sorting lessons that are adjusted to grade level, and scheduled them up, and then we could teach each and every kid how to sort and why it is important to sort, right? And so for the little kids, they're very excited. They want to do the right thing. And, you get out all your visuals, your worm, and talk about composting and things like that, and feeding the worms, and they get very excited. And you show them cool things that they can do, like sorting on their trays, and you give them visuals like this, and they got all excited. This is how you sort your tray, and then this can be your exit ticket out of the cafeteria when the time comes. And that's what we would do. Oh, show me that you can sort this. And they love to show their knowledge. They get very excited. Oh, look how I sorted out my tray. They have a job to do. The volume went down. It was amazing. After we had our big kickoff launch and our assembly with StopWaste, they get so excited and they can't wait to do these jobs. And for the older kids, 4th and 5th graders, the 5th grade at Colonial Acres, we tapped them to be the green team with our wonderful green teacher, Claudia McDonough, who was great. And, then you provide them with exciting tools like grabbers or decontamination sticks, as we like to call them. They love these. And those are the most fun job. You have to rotate the jobs. Also, another little job that we had was to go around and collect landfill from the different tables. These are good kind of training wheels, kind of for the initial part of the launch. After you launch, you go around, you make sure that the little kids have the landfill taken away from them. You have a discussion. Hey, what goes? Hey, give me your landfill. And then they only have to deal with their compost and their recycling once they get in line to dispose of their stuff. So, so we have the grabbers, decontamination sticks, we have the landfill, we had the lovely aprons. This is mine, it says trash talker. Then then Claudia McDonough was so excited, about the whole rollout, that she wanted to be as ambitious as possible. So we also piloted classroom compost bins. So this, again, we didn't want to put any more pressure or work on the custodian. So this was a student job. We gave them these lovely composting bins for their classroom to get any paper towels. Mostly they put it by the sink to get those paper towels, and so the compost and any unwrapped food that might be eaten in the classroom as well. And then kids would bring those during lunch to the cafeteria. You put your room number on it, dump that out, bring it back to your classroom, and that was a student job. And then periodically washing that out. And so that you're capturing more waste, but you're not burdening the custodian. So she was ambitious. We did it. We've rolled it out in several other other schools as well. So yeah, basically it's giving these kids a job to do. And the floor tends to be a lot cleaner, so the custodian's not cleaning up the floor. Because again, you got tools, you got kids who are excited to do a good job, and they want to show their knowledge, they want to show what a good job they're doing. And the noise level went down, and you would even see Mr. Tracy having a break during lunchtime, and that was really exciting to see. So I think I've covered it all. And I did want to mention that Colonial Acres was also very excited to do food recovery, because they had already started that practice. They were already a school that didn't like food waste, so they actually had a refrigerator in their cafeteria that they would before we even arrived on the scene, they would put perishables in there, and then they had a parent who would come and donate that to a church, I believe. So they already had that going too, as well as the tray stacking. So they were really primed to expand their program. So, and then I'm going to pass it, I think, to Devon or maybe to Ruth.
Yeah, over to Devon Jackson from Mount Diablo Unified, and he will be introducing his colleague, the custodial staff person who he works with on site at Foothill Middle School.
Yes, hello everybody. Hopefully you all can hear me. My name is Devon Jackson, and I am a teacher at Foothill Middle School in the Mount Diablo Unified School District in Contra Costa County, which is right at the foothills in the foot of Mount Diablo. And I am here today with my colleague, Joel Yuzon, and Joel will be speaking to you all on his connection to the Foothill Middle School Environmental Club, and also he is our wonderful, stellar, excellent, professional, just an amazing daytime custodian here at Foothill Middle School. And I'm going to go ahead and just move around, and I'm going to turn my camera so that I'm focusing on him. And you're getting a little chance to see my classroom. And Mr. Joel Yuzon. Here we go. And Joel, can you just talk just to see how audio is?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can everybody hear him? Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Joe.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jackson, for that very wonderful introduction. So my name is Joel. I am the morning custodian here at Foothill Middle School for about 4 years now. Maybe this is my 5th year. I'm not really sure, but I have stopped counting the years because I've enjoyed my job, really. So how do I see this three-way stream program, which we call it here at Foothill Middle School? Personally, I find it a very beautiful, a very magnificent, I would say, a wonderful program, which actually separates waste, our waste here in school, into 3 categories. This is landfill, recycling, and compost. I find this personally a good training for the kids because it gives awareness of the significance of caring for Mother Earth by reducing the carbon footprint released to our environment. This is a practice also done in many schools, and I know that this is also done in most high schools, later on in college, and all through their lives. So it's always good to start them early and make it a regular habit. It is actually teaching them that everything should not be thrown outright, but instead be reused, reduced, and recycled. I believe that this is already a slogan for a cleaner environment. Now, while this is a good program, I know that there are many challenges facing this. It's a tedious process met with a lot of difference and opposition. People don't want to be inconvenienced with sorting out their trash. Oftentimes, we simply want to get rid of them the fastest way, or sometimes you just leave them behind thinking or hoping that they'll just disappear. Now, for this program to be successful, of course, this requires everyone's cooperation, from the administration to the teachers and staff to the student body itself, and that includes the parents. And this requires continuous education through constant information dissemination. So what other suggestions can I make to make this program more effective? Color coding, of course, is one, and that has been mentioned a couple of times already by the past speakers. We have red or gray containers for the landfill, blue for recycling, and green for compost. It's also good that if we can have some color coding for the plastic liners, but if this is not possible, like in our district now, we use clear bags. There are ways where we can actually separate the 3 types of waste that we have here in school. First, we can improvise dividers or small walls to separate them when we try to haul them out of the garbage containers. I personally use a flatbed cart, which is about 70 inches by 40 inches. And from my experience, most of the trash that I haul is still composed of landfill. So a good idea would be to divide that flatbed, half of it which is allocated to landfill, 30% of it to recycling, and 20% of it to compost. That way, when I put them all together, okay, I can just, I know exactly where these different bags go into the different bins. By experience, I haul about 18 to 23 bags of trash. And this is during the pre-pandemic days where we have 900 students coming in for in-person learning. And this is just for the mornings alone. Okay. Another way, another suggestion I can make to make this program more effective, of course, as mentioned earlier too, is constant reminders. I remember hearing announcements in our PA system every morning telling the kids that, do you know that you can put plastic bottles in the recycling bin instead of throwing them straight to the trash? Things like this. And then also another way of doing that would be having posters around the campus. Okay, I've seen this in our campus, and I'm glad that with these posters, students especially are reminded of the proper way to dispose of trash. A fun way to remind kids and everyone is probably to have cardboard or plywood figures of our school principal, or maybe Mr. Jackson himself, or probably a famous character an athlete, or a cartoon character reminding everyone of the importance of proper waste disposal. We have seen Yogi Bear telling everyone, keep our parks clean. Then we can do that also in our class, in our campus, having your favorite character, your favorite celebrity reminding you. I also thought just a while ago that maybe we can even record voice coming out of those cardboard models, telling them, hey, put your trash in its proper place. Now, a very important part of our waste program is the ECK Club, which means the Ecologically Concerned Kids. Okay, ECK stands for Ecologically Concerned Kids.
It also stands for the Environmentally Concerned Kids.
Okay.
We like to be both.
Yeah, okay. And personally, I think these are the modern day heroes for our program. These are the frontliners for this project, and they also do waste audit. The waste audit, of course, we know is when we see how effective or how successful a particular station is in collecting the trash that is supposed to be assigned to that container. We do this by measuring the total weight, and then we lay out the whole trash using the correct PPEs, personal protection equipment, and sorting them out. And then at the end, we find out how much of it is left, which actually belongs to that container. And from our experience, we have a landfill percentage of about 65%. Recycling, we do 90% of that, and compost at about 60+%. Now, landfill compost of is 65% effective, which means that we have actually reduced 35% of it, of all the waste going to the landfill. That alone is already very significant. Okay. Now, a 65 to 70% effectivity is a good success rate for that particular container. So if you hit that mark in each particular container, you're doing pretty good. Then, of course, we can do the same procedure for all the other containers or cans in each station. So the question now is, what then is the custodian's role in this three-way stream program? As an AM custodian, as a morning custodian, my main role is really to separate the trash the best way I can. But given the time constraints and the other duties that I need to accomplish within that time span, I'm only one part of this effort. I have to keep the campus clean at all times. I cannot just concentrate on one area of the campus. I have to move around and make sure that everything is clean and presentable to any visitor that come by. My main role in the waste management project is to haul away the plastic bags containing the trash, replace the cans with clean, fresh plastic liners, and bring the filled bags to the right bins where they get picked up by the city waste management trucks to be brought to their proper waste treatment destination. So it is important for me to know exactly where each bag goes because this is the last stop on the campus level. Again, overall, this program only becomes successful, like any program, if everyone does his or her part. So it's important that everyone does a concerted effort to do his or her part in making this program a successful one. So that's it. This is me, Joel, a custodian here at Foothill Middle School, giving you some ideas and a glimpse of my daily life here at school. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joel and Devon.
Yes. Thank you so much, Joel. That was awesome. And back to you, Ruth.
Great. Next up, we're going to have Nancy Demi from Oakland Unified, who's going to go over some of the resources that we have available for schools and school districts. Take it away, Nancy, and I will share the screen here.
Thanks, Ruth. And if anybody has questions, and I guess kind of high level burning questions, if you want to put that in the chat box, and I'll do my best to kind of breeze through our resources because they all can be found on the NCRA website. And if somebody on our team can put in the NCRA website again, that would be great. So this first one, it's a 2-page document that highlights a lot of the best practices and tips on waste sorting, and especially from the custodial perspective. Next slide, please, Ruth. And then this is a COVID resource that we pulled together so that we could give custodians and admin at the sites to tell us what they're needing, so that we, knowing that doing individual school sites is going to be more challenging. So we've got a comprehensive guide that goes through all the steps and kind of framing out what the custodian or the admin should look at. And this also includes a page for consideration for like classroom eating or outdoor campus eating. Next slide, please, Ruth. So yeah, so this is a follow-up, just another couple pages out of the overall ordering guide. Next slide. So we've had this guide that we did in partnership for our whole county on cafeteria meal sorting. And then with the pandemic lens, knowing that a lot of kids might be needing to eat outdoors, we adjusted it. So one of the big takeaways on this is changing the food share to uneaten food. So that kids still, ideally encouraging take it to go, the walking apple, so kids take home their uneaten items from the school meal. But then any of the surplus that they still haven't eaten to go into an uneaten container versus the food share. So it can go back to the kitchen. Kitchen can have an idea of the surplus, and then consideration for donation. Next slide, Ruth, please. So one of the things we highly encourage for schools to consider is signage that goes up above the bins, so that when the student or school community is going up to the waste bins, they can see what items go where, because with the stickers on the sides of the bin, you can't see them anymore. So we've developed a system with hardware, and we've got this document, and this one's where it just keeps evolving. Just yesterday, we were gonna need to adjust because we've used wing nets, and we're just gonna use a regular net because kids will go up to the bin and unscrew the wing net. But this is a step-by-step process of what's involved on using that kind of signage system. Ruth, we've switched over to the website versus the slides.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Let me reshare my screen, but you keep going while I get that up.
Okay. I'm trying to think what's the next slide.
Oopsie, here we go.
Thanks.
Are you seeing it now?
There we go. So this one definitely helped for Oakland early on when the custodians were still kind of getting the lay of the land on the bins. So that's just kind of a reminder of those bins that are interior to them, what they're going to be experiencing when they go outside. And especially for Oakland, with us having waste management and the hauling bins aren't color coded, these helped. Next slide, please. And then some of the specifics that the hauler requires. So we worked with Waste Management for Oakland Unified on working through a lot of the details, so that custodians are remembering what they need to be aware of, what they need to watch out for, what fees we would incur for things that they might be having on their side, and then like reporting on missed pickups, so that we're keeping everybody up to date and in the loop. Next slide, please. Okay, so to do this, right, we could get farther if we come all together. So I definitely encourage folks, if you have any resources that we could add to our spreadsheet for others to learn from. One of the things we're working on right now is a policy for like waste reduction and sorting, and then we'll have a template that will be added. Highly encourage anybody to consider joining our schools committee. We meet about once a month, twice a month. We'll be continuing on during the summer with having a webinar, and the next one we're thinking on doing kind of specific custodial and staff training. And then there's the CRRA conference. It's coming up August 16th and 19th. And there's always a few tracks, a few presentations that are highlighted around K-12 schools. Yeah, so those are all their resources, and those can all be found on our NCRA webpage. And then do we want to circle back to any questions that are coming up in the chat? We've got 5 minutes left. Amanda and Devon, do we have any ones that we should address first?
There was a first question, and it was directed towards Juan. What responsibilities are dedicated through the custodial staff in regards to recycling organic food waste and food sorting?
Hi there. So can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Absolutely. What responsibilities are dedicated through the custodial staff in regards to recycling organic food waste or food sorting?
So our custodial staff has been trained to look at our bin stations and determine whether or not there's a 10% or more contamination. And if that is the case, the waste will end up in the garbage. They are not responsible to sort out. Once it's in the bin, it's in the bin, and they have been trained to make that call on the spot. So their job essentially is to collect. If it's contaminated, it goes in the garbage.
Great. Feel free to unmute yourself if anyone in the audience has additional questions. I think metrics came up, but we've answered that in the chat.
And I thought maybe you could just walk us through, Amanda or Nancy, the resources and how they're available on the website.
Sure. So we've shared the website, ncrarecycles.org, and right there, there's a resource Google Doc with multiple links. So open it up, and on the left-hand side, you can click and be directed to those documents we've shared in the presentation today and other resources we've been collecting. And if you have anything to contribute to this, you can email us at ncrareschools@gmail.com.
So thank you so much for sharing this resource. My custodian, Mr. Joel Yuzon, was mentioning how he would like to have that shared in the chat if we can. And so then that way he can look at it and send it off to his colleagues. Because that was a resource that while he was looking at it, he was like, wow, this is excellent. Can I get this resource, please?
Of course, and it's available right on that website link. So I'll just put it in one more time. It's basically ncrarecycles.org /0 waste schools. So I'll just put it in again.
And I do want to encourage folks to think about the resources that they have, because I know we can all benefit from everybody's combined effort. And I know we have some folks on the call from SCRAP, which is the Tri-County. I'm gonna get your area wrong. Tri-County Monterey County region, and they have a really diverse, robust, engaged team. And I sat in on their meeting yesterday, and they have some great videos and some great concepts about student art pieces and waste reduction for campus events. So I'm gleaning those and adding those to our spreadsheet. But it's hard for us to always all stay connected and know what everybody's doing. So if you have any resources, please feel free to share them, and you can reach out to me directly, and then that way we can upload them. And then also if anybody wants to join our committee, we welcome anybody to join in, because then we could have subcommittees and working on projects all together.
Great. And I think with that, we're kind of at the top of the hour. Amanda, did you also want to put in the chat the email for the committee in addition to Nancy's? Nancy, you might get a lot of emails as well. Great. Well, thank you so much to all of our speakers, to Pleasanton Unified, to Mount Diablo Unified, to Oakland Unified, to San Lorenzo, StopWaste, and everybody who's working to get schools to recycle and compost. We're, as you could see from the enthusiastic response from our STAR custodians, they are really a part of the solution and have been really energetic in supporting the solution as long as everybody does their part. So thank you for doing your part, for coming to this webinar. And we promise to continue to offer these every few months, and keep track of us at nickrecycles.org at the Zero Waste School page. See you next time.